Okay. Yes, AJ will join in a sec. Great. So what can we do now is just quickly npm start. Come on. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's talk about routing. Remember that you have, like, with React, it's basically a single page application, right? And you can't actually navigate to different pages. So let's quickly create two components, just a very basic components. Why is the fireworks here? It's the same near me. I have it.
AJ under fire. AJ under fire.
Oh, right. You can hear it.
Oh, that is why.
Guy Fawkes night. My bad, let me just turn off the microphone.
Okay, that makes sense now. Beautiful. So, I don't know, page 1. Let's say home.js, and let's have another one, about.js. We have about, and we have home. RFAC. Right? So here we will type home. We will have about. So now, if you want to render them on the page, how do we want to render one or another? Let's create some navigation, right? And we will have two anchors. We will have, I don't know, anchor like home, and we want to have about, right? And here we want to have our home and our about, but we want to import it. Import what? Import home from components home. I want to have the same for about, right? About. Something like that. So now we will render default. What? Component does not contain a default export. What it is about? What? Oh, right, sorry. Export default and about, right? And same for home. Yeah, okay. So we have our navigation, right? Home and about, but we're rendering two. So how do we handle before routing, before we start with routing? How do we want to render one or another? Any ideas?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
So now we're rendering both, right? But I want to render one or another. So I want to be able to go to home page or to about page. So when I click, let's say home, let me add some href. I don't know. So when I click home, I want to go to home page and hide my about component. And if I go to about, I want to hide my home and show just about. How can I do that?
I think in HTML, CSS, there was like a hidden display. I don't know about.
Yeah, but if you have a big application, you don't want to render all components and just with CSS hide it. So one thing is that let me just the one thing that you can do is potentially create some state. Let me just import React from React. Then we want to have use state, and theoretically we can, when we click on one, we can change the state value of the const, let's say use state, and one of the options is to have like a page, right? Page. And initial page will be home for us. And here, on these anchors, that shouldn't be anchors, right? Because it doesn't matter. That can be just lies or whatever. But what we can do is just set like on click and call our set page with home. Yeah. And for another one, we can have something like about. And then here, we can have just conditionals like if page equals home render home, right? Then if page equals about render about. Yeah, so now we are rendering home by default, and when I click about, I'm rendering my about. Yeah, so we can actually render them one or another. But the problem here is that you can't actually navigate. So you can't give someone's like home, right? And go to home. Or so it goes to the default one. And it is your home, so it technically works. But if you go to about, you're still on home. But you want to provide somebody a link to the application. And that is why we have React Router. So yeah, basically you can provide benefits, you can give extra benefits to your application, and this is SEO. So you actually the internet engines, like Google, etc. They can index your application because they will see all your pages. They can render every single page. You can provide like a map of your application. So you can share, as I said, you can send a link and people can use it and go directly to a specific part of your application. And yeah, that means that when you're debugging, you don't need to click hundreds times to get to the specific page, because you can just use the URL and be on that page, and that will work. You'll basically stay on that page. And yeah, this is how Just Web works. You need to have a URL to go to a specific page. So yeah, we have like window location. Remember that you can navigate between pages, right? So you're providing URLs here, but what you can do is you basically can do something like that. If you're on the page and go to console and provide this one, I need the proper quotes. we just go to another page, right? Because you're changing the Windows location. So this is how the browser works in HTML, and this is the old way of doing that. And React Router this is extra package that brings that kind of functionality and hooks to the window location API. So it basically connects your Windows location and actually your React app. And you need to remember about 3 main components that you need to use for to have routing on your application. The main one is router. So you wrap your application into the router. And within router, you can have routes. If you don't have router as a wrapper and put just routes, it will not work. And link, you might try to guess what link does. I bet you will guess. Any ideas? Come on.
Put rid of the link.
Exactly. So this is the way how we replace anchor for routing. So now, if you use routing, you don't need to use anchor doesn't work in general. You need to use link component to be able to navigate within the app to different pages. So 3 main components: router as a wrapper for whole application, route to build a specific route, and link just to navigate as an anchor. Basically, it behaves as an anchor. So yeah, router wraps around routes. So basically, it passes some props to each route, and that is what like a window history, so we can navigate back and forward, backwards and forwards within your application, and you can basically have extra functionality. So each route, basically with routes, you specifying which page should be rendered. And basically these views, I'll show all examples of course in a second, but that means that with the route, you kind of provide to the route, you provide in the component, the view, the whole view, the component that you want to render on that route. So basically, the tree for your application is that you have your app, and you have in each route, to each route you're passing specific component, the whole view, and within this view you will have a lot of components for this specific page. But this is like a top level. Yeah. So this is how it works. First of all, as you can see, we are importing React Router DOM. That means that we need to install it, and you might ask me, where do we get this one? So route React. So this is their official website. They actually have quite a very good documentation with all examples for every single thing. So if you have a link, it shows how the link works. So you this is like for anchor href. This one is 2. You use 2, not href. And you can pass different things. They have, as I said, very good documentation. And you can have route, for example. And route says that you providing. I'll show all these examples in a few seconds. But let's go to the very beginning because we need to install it. Ooh, examples. Great. Now we need to. Oh my gosh. Sorry.
So does that mean this is another library?
Yes. Yeah. This is just another package. Yep. Because React by itself, it doesn't know how to let's say, navigate between pages and create to have pages. This is because this is why we call it single page application, because by default it expects to be on the one page, not on multiple.
So this routing takes place within local system or even on the server as well?
On the server, of course, because this is routing.
Mm.
So you build in as an application, and that will work as expected on the web. So let me just npm install. So we don't need this one anymore. We don't need. So we will not have anchors because we will use links, right? And we don't need to have these two as well. Let's save for a second. Okay, npm start. So yeah, we did installation. Now we can go back here. So what do we want to have? We want to import browser router as router because the component, their component, is browser router. But people normally rename it, and you'll see like everywhere. I've never seen browser router as a part of the code. Everybody's importing browser router as router. So what we will do here is browser router. Sorry, I need to change quotes. So now we have router, and we want to wrap everything. As you can see, we want to wrap everything we return into router. So that will be something like that. Come on. Oh my gosh. And we want to move it here. So now within this, we can have routes, and we can provide like something. We can create route, so we import in route as well. Route. And here you provide pass argument. So for example, the main one, the root, right? I will have home component, and I'm providing it like this. And another route, I want to have about, and I will provide about component. Yeah, pretty simple. So now, if I go, we will get an error for sure. Ooh. What's going on? Render. Check the render methods of route consumer. Right. I think we need a div. Do we need a div? Do we? That's odd, actually. That should work. Why it's complaining? So let me just check. Router. This is what they do, right? We have router, we pass in a div, and we have routes. Looks good for me. What's wrong with it? Expect a string for built-in components or class functions. Any ideas what's going on?
Sorry, what line does it say the error is on?
I mean, it's not very helpful. Line 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's going on? Components. You're passing components. Okay, so maybe they just changed the documentation. Let me check. Will that work? Maybe they just changed some in a new version. Because these things, by the way, in production, you need to be careful every time you update any packages. Yeah, okay. Because they are changing. So when on production, when you have a big application, and you're working on something, you use, for example, router and like this library, and you need to be very careful with updating of this application, because not the application, but this package, any package, because you might actually just break everything. And as you can see, the old way of doing that, it was just component. So you pass component. Let me actually check if we just put not like this, but just component, just as a name, maybe that will work. Yeah, it is working. Okay, so it wants to, okay, I know what's going on. Yeah, that was me, sorry. So you can do like this, right? Just pass a component, or you can, if you want to pass props, you can pass it as a component. But that should be wrapped into an anonymous function. Does it make sense? So that can be passed as this, or like this, but here with this version, you can just pass something like, I don't know, number equals, and you can pass some, I don't know, 6. Yeah, so you can pass props, but in this version you can't do that. Yeah. Okay, cool. We do not pass any props. So what we have here is just about page, and if you go to this one, so you can see that on the main page we're rendering just home, yeah, as we should, because we are matching this one. But if you go to about, we're actually rendering both, and this is a problem, right? How to solve it? And this is why you're matching two paths, right? So because you have this path, you're technically matching the first one. You have your forward slash, and you have the forward slash in this one. That is why you're rendering that, and you render this one. So there is a few ways to solve this. First way is to put for each exact property prop, right? So now if I'm passing exact, as you can see, now I'm on about, I have just about, on this one I have just home. Right? This is the first way of solving that. The next way is to use, yeah, we probably get to that in a few moments. So another thing, questions?
So what was that? Exact, is it?
Yeah,
the
exact.
Keyword,
yeah, exact.
okay. Okay.
So yeah, that means that if you, again, I want to repeat myself, that if you want to use route, that needs to be within router. So what actually people do in real life, they don't have router in app component. They just go to index file to the very, very top, importing this one here and removing from here and putting here. Yeah, so you're wrapping the whole application, and the whole application has all the router props. So you don't need to have it here, and you don't need to have this. So this is how people actually handle them in real life. So if you go back, we have home, and about, we have about. Yeah? This is how actual real life. So you put your router wrapper into index file to wrap the whole application. And then you just working with your routes anywhere you want, because the whole application is wrapped into router. Yeah, and here's an example. So you just basically wrapping your route app into the router. Yeah, so pass you can pass, again, few ways of doing that. You can pass component as a child to your route. This is what they suggest in documentation, right? So as they showed you, you have a router, and you have inside you have a pass. You have a component that you want to render, or you can do in the way I did, like this, or you can wrap it into anonymous function and pass props there, whatever you want. Quite a few ways. Yeah. So, this is what we just discussed, right? That we failing to get. Yeah, so this is the root, and what will happen, this is what I just explained with about that you will render both pages, which is wrong, right? And this is what we want to avoid, and that is why we use our exact. Let's actually create a few more things. Let's create. So you don't need, let's just create and I'll explain the rest. So navigation, we have, as you remember, we want to have links, right? You don't want to have anchors, we want to have links. Router. So why is that? Why do you think we want to have links, not anchors? Let me show you what is.
Also, Vasil, also it would be great if you, whenever you have a time, repeat back what mistake did you do the first when it wasn't rendering home and about?
Yeah, I did this.
Wish to do.
I did this. So, but component actually expects not component but a function, which your home is, right? So home is a function. And that is why,
So,
yep.
So it's expect as a JSX, not the just the simply component.
Yeah, it expects, yeah, exactly. It expects basically a function, not a JSX component.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a function. That will return JSX component.
Just the name of the function would do.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, exactly. So if you do this, let's say home, and we will have about, let's try. So if we click home, see that if I'm clicking, I'm navigating. But why it is a problem? Can you try to guess? Any ideas? So anchors work, right? So why we don't want to use anchors? Try to observe what's going on my screen when I click any anchor.
Is it because it refreshes?
Yes, exactly. So when you use anchors, every time you click, you refreshing the whole application. What kind of problems that will cause?
You will lose the data that you have stored.
Yep, so you'll lose your state, correct? You'll lose every single piece of state that you had. And imagine that you have a complex application where you're interacting with different things and you did a lot of stuff. And you click the anchor, you just lost everything, correct? Good?
Right.
Another thing? Like another obvious thing, I would say. Imagine, again, because we are playing with small application, this is fine, right? But imagine that you have a huge application. It is heavy. You have like 50 views. You have tons of data, and this is huge. Every time you click, you will reload the whole application, which takes time. That is why you want to avoid this. And that is why, if you change it to link, save. refresh, and now if I'm clicking, I'm not, it just doesn't work. Why? Because dummy Vasil 2, right? So let's try again. So home, yeah, now we're not refreshing the page. We stay on the same page. It just mutate, like faking the changing of the route, right? And you're still able to land on this page straight away, or just to go to the main one where you have home. Yep. So now you're not losing your data. That is why you want to use links instead of anchors. Does it make sense? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So and link will be compiled into anchors, by the way. So if you inspect the element, you have anchors. So in DOM, you will see them as anchors. Yeah.
Or dodgy stuff.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the next step is you can have dynamic links, right? You can generate your links like that. So imagine that you have 5 users, or you fetch in 10 users, and on each page you want to have, let's actually create that. So let's create some data. Const I don't know, pets. Let's create pets. And that will be an array, and there we will have objects. So pet, so name, Archibald. What is the spelling for Archibald? Archibald, just Archibald. This is my Cocker Spaniel. So type dog, age 6, pretty old dog. Okay, and let's say another one, name. So the previous, my cat was Sebastian. He's dead, unfortunately. Cat. Age, I don't know how old he was. I don't know, 6 maybe, 6, 7.
Which breed?
That was British Blue.
British short hair.
Yeah.
Right.
That one. Another pet, I don't know, Tom, cat, right? Cat, age. It was pretty adult, right? From Tom and Jerry. Yeah, name, Jerry. That was type mouse, right? And age, I don't know, also 5, potentially 5. Okay, great. So you have some, what's going on? Is not defined. Cat is not defined. Sorry, I missed my quotes. Yeah, so potentially that should be outside my application, because I don't want to re-render that every time. So you can have it like this. Okay, so we have our pets. So let's actually render. Let's create a route. Let's rename let's rename this one. Let's rename to pets, and this one will be pets. here that will be pets. I want to rename it to pets. This one should be renamed to pets. Pets and pets. And here we want to pass all our pets, right? We want to have pets. Pets. That should be structured from our props, right? Okay, that means that we want to pass pets to this component. And remember I said that you can wrap it into an anonymous function and convert it to actual component and pass pets as pets, something like that, right? That should work. Let's actually quickly render the list UL. Maybe I want to wrap it into the div, or maybe not div, just a fraction, right? Remember the fragment. And here I will have like h1 pets. Here we will have our UL, and in UL I will have something like pets.map pet, and we will have some li, no autocomplete, annoying, and we have like a pet.name. So that will be, I don't know, key. Remember that you need to have key, which will be pet.name. Let's say we have pretty unique names, so we can use it as a key. Okay, so let's see, what do we have? All right, we need to change the link to pets. Yep. So there is no about anymore, but if you go home, that's fine. If you go to pets, we do not render our pets. Why is that? Any ideas? What's going on? Where's our pets? Console log pets. Oh, right. Everything is great. We just forgot to change this one to pets, right? Because we have brought pets, so the link should redirect us to pets. So now click pets. Beautiful. We have an array. For some reason we're still not rendering it. So we have name, Archibald, beautiful. We have everything. Why are we not rendering? Pets, UL. Why are we not rendering? Tell me. Very simple mistake. Come on, you should spot it.
Wait, does it need to be curly bracket? Sorry, a regular, instead of the curly bracket after the pet, just a regular, what do you call it?
A regular what?
A regular, just not a curly bracket, just a regular bracket, if that makes sense.
Like this?
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, that's true. That can be like this. Why is that?
I mean, because it's to do with the type of return it does, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. So we can use like this. That will work. Now we have the array, all our pets, but we can just, I just forgot to use return, right? For my curlies. This is the same. This is absolutely the same. And you're right, you can keep it as it is. Good. Okay. So looks like it is working. So let's convert our things to actual link, right? We want to have our link. Let me just copy paste this one. Import. We don't need to have route. We just want to have link. Give me a second. So that should be a link. We don't have any IDs. Do we want to have IDs? Theoretically, we can use just what we can do. What can we do? We can do something. Let's use name. So / pet dot. So pets / pet pet dot name, something like that. So that we need backticks, right? So now every time I can click on my pet name and we will be redirected to that page, to the specific pet. So let me create just another component, pet.js, and we have the arrow function component. Almost not class pet, just pet. And here we will pass our pet, right? So we will expect to have a pet. But yeah, let's see just pet, and theoretically I just want to have a navigation go back. A link. Let me just import link from React DOM router DOM. Now we have link and go back. Bow back. Go back. Something like that. So now, if I click to Sebastian, I'm going to Sebastian, right? We have nothing here because we haven't created our route, which we need. Yeah. So here, that might be not the best architecture, but you can create route here on this level and have pass. And let's not use components actually. Let's actually use how our documentation suggests. So not component, but just as a child. Something like that. Ooh. And self-closing because we don't have anything inside. Come on. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. And here we have pets. So we remove this. Something like that. And now we're creating another one, which will be our pet. Yeah. So it depends where do you want to have your pet. You can have your pet here. And basically, let's pass it. Pets. Yeah, pets, just pet. We'll pass all our pets. And we need to do a few things to get our specific pet. Refresh. If you go here, let me just go to pet. Why are we still not navigating there? Any ideas? Yeah, right. We need to change pets / and that should be our pet name. Something like that. It shouldn't be exact. Refresh. Yeah, so we have our pet. If we go back, it doesn't work obviously because we don't have anything else. theoretically we can just add to link to where is it? Pets, yep. Just a routing, regular routing. So we can actually navigate. Great. So far, so good. Yeah, so we have this kind of map we're rendering, and we have the list with different anchors. This is what we want to have. So here, what we can do, we can have a router, dynamic router, with the cat ID. We can do in this way. So we have a few approaches. First one is to pass it as a prop. So whatever you pass, that means that will be a variable, and that will take it. So you can actually go to this one, pets, right? And you still land into to this page for this pet. You can do actually, it can be sophisticated. You can check the value. You are able, with router, you are able to get values from your URL, check something, and do whatever action you want. You can navigate back, etc. if it doesn't exist, or you can navigate to 404 or whatever you want. It's just JavaScript logic. So here, you can have something like that. That's completely fine. You can create that kind of logic. Ooh, we have cats. Look at us. Almost, very close. So we can actually create this. You can create this one pet, right? And that should be pet name, and that should be pets, and that should be pet. Yeah, so you can actually render like that routes, so you can build a lot of routes this way. We still have cat, right? So we can pass cat, pet, and pet. So now in our pet, we're actually receiving our pet. Here we can have, let's say, actually pet.name, just to test it. So if you go to Sebastian, what's going on? Oh yeah, this is unique keys. Okay, so they are asking about unique keys as well. Dum da dum. Let's put index and key equals index. We have pets, routers, we have pet. Is it okay? Are we actually rendering pet? Go to pets, go to Sebastian, nothing is happening. Why? You might tell me why. Tell me why. You can spot it, come on. No? We have still cats. Obvious, right? Okay, great. So refresh. Yeah, we have Sebastian, right? If you go to Jerry, we have, to Tom, we have Tom. Jerry, we have Jerry. Right? So you can dynamically generate your routes with map and with some data. Yeah. So sometimes, so let's actually do something smart. Div. Here we will have like a, I don't know, H4, H5, let's say. Or just B. Name, and we will have pet dot name. We have age. You have type name age. Yep, cat Sebastian age 7. Looks good. So, first of all, how I can refactor that? How I can make it nicer? Tell me. JavaScript. It's not about React. How I can make it nicer? See that I'm repeating myself 3 times. What can I do?
Use a function.
Use a function. Which function?
Just a function with 3 arguments that return that type. Just return that essentially. What you just copy and paste that in there.
So we have the pet is an object, right?
Yeah.
So what we can do is just do object keys, pet. So now we have, this is an array of keys. Now we have map, key, and here, let's say object key.
So I can't see what you're typing at now.
Yeah, same. I cannot see it either.
Sorry, you can't, ooh. You not see my screen?
There it is, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yep, so here, now you have object key, and now what I can do is basically just object key, and then I will have pet object key, right? Now I don't need to repeat myself 3 times. And here I just need to have a key, which will be object key. Save, refresh, beautiful. As usual, return, refresh. Yep. So now it is working, still the same. But now we're not repeating ourselves. How cool is it? Great. Okay, so the next step is, this is what I tried to show you. You can pass ID as a separate thing, right? So you can don't generate a lot of routes, because basically you'll create a lot of routes. You can just create a template and with one route and pass it as a with kind of the property for your URL, right? Yeah, before 3 questions, let me just show it to you. So it is here. So what we can do is just route, and we have path, we have pets, and we have pet name. Yep. And that should have a pet. But obviously we don't know what the pet will be inside. So what we want to do, we want to, when we land on this route, we want to get the value from the URL. So what you can do, let me just comment it out, this one. So what's going on? Yeah, we don't have pet. So for a sec, we can go to URL. Drops. show you in documentation. Route props. Yeah, route props has match, location, and history, and you can basically get from location the value. So what we can do is let me just show it to you. December location, push. You can push location. You can get. Let me just double check because I don't remember the syntax. So get around from router, right? This will help people Googling what they do. Props match prompts ID. Beautiful. So it is a part of match. Actually, for some reason I was thinking that this is not match. This is location, but apparently it is. Oops, wait a sec. URL. Yeah, match. So we can use match. Let's quickly. So if you go to pets, you can have match. I hope, and let's console log. I'm not actually passing, so I'm not sure that I'm getting it, but let's see. What have I done? Oh yeah, right. I'm trying to console log, which it doesn't exist. Undefined, yeah, because I'm not passing it. So here, route component equals this one. So now we should have, yeah, as you can see, we have it. And we have param with pet name. This is what we've passed, right? Pet name. And this is Sebastian in our case. Go back, click this, and we will have Tom, right? So what we can do as well, it always depends on your architecture of your application, because in our case, now we can pass another prop with all our pets, and on pet level, we can find the pet by pet name and render it. This is the one approach. Another thing, if you have like a Redux, which we will talk on another lesson, on the next lesson, and you have a global scope, a global state, you can actually store it not in component, this data, but in global state, and you can just retrieve from that global state by this the pet by name, and you can render it here. So it always depends on your architecture. But because we don't have Redux here for now, we can pass our all pets, right? So we can do this, and here we'll have props. Let's say, how do we want to call it? Oh, we actually get a few things. We pass in match. I think it's an object, isn't it? I hope so. Let me just check. I don't actually remember, but we can quickly check it. So pets equals pets and match equals match. Let's see, I guess. Something like that. Yeah, so we pass in two props. Match, let me check. Yeah, we're still passing it. So it is an object. So that means that if you want to have two others, like history, you're just destructuring that from that object. Or you can do just like route props and just spread it here. Yeah, so you're spreading all route props, and then you still have it, but you also have history and location as well. So now, what we can do, can you remind me? So you have params and pet name. Yeah. So you have const pet name, which is match dot params pet name. Yeah. So we got the name and const. This is pets, right? Because we pass in the whole array of pets. We have pet equals pets dot find, as you might guess. Then you have smart autocomplete. The naming is of course ugly because that should be pet, but name equals pet name. And now you can use your basically this uncomment, and you have your pet. Yep. And refresh, and it is working. Tom, Sebastian, or sorry, it is working. The other thing, and it is very easy to fix now, if I do some random URL, right? So it is broken, completely broken app. What do we want to do actually? So find will return you undefined, I think, or null. And so let's check. What find? Does anyone remember what find returns? Anyone? So if you have, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, and oh my gosh, dot find. We have n equals 10, undefined. Yeah. So if it's falsy, basically it's falsy. This is what we want. What we want to do is, let's say, we want to wrap it into fragment again, or we can have an early return. Let's do an early return. This is what people normally do. So if pet is false, then return, I don't know, h1 h1 404 pet not found. Yeah, so now pet not found. Let's look for any, I don't know, Garfield, pet not found. And we can look for Sebastian. It is working, yeah? So now we're kind of handling that. The 404, beautiful. Also, we can, so basically you can create the 404 page and do it in this way. Again, the JavaScript is very flexible and React as well, so you can approach the same thing and get the same result with very different ways. So we can have just like that. Beautiful. Questions on this one? We have 3 questions that you want to ask. I know we have more than 3 questions, but we want to limit you. Come on. Is everything that clear? Okay. The other thing that I want to show you which we haven't touched. So we use here for now, we use route and we use exact, right? To not render other pages. But actually, we have another component, and you can read about it a bit more here, which is switch. So basically you switch in between components. Let me show you. So now we can actually import switch and wrap our routers, and you might guess this switch works as regular switch. So it will look for the first match, right? And what will be the first match for pets if I go to this URL? You might think that we will match this one, and you will be right, because again, that will look for the very first match. So that means that your switch order matters. So if you put this, it will go from the top. Does it match? No. Does it match? No. Matches. Beautiful. Render. And see that they are saying actually that the root route, you can put exact, because it doesn't matter. It's just very simple URL, exact. So you can combine both things. Exact. Come on. Exact. Well, exact. Yeah. Sorry, spellings. Yeah, exact. Yeah. So now that should match, but these two, based on which will. Oh, we will have a clash here, right? So let's see. If I go to Sebastian, see, I'm staying on the same page, right? Tom, still on the same page, because I'm hitting my pets. So that is why I need to put my pets down below. Let's try again. Now we're actually working. It is working, right? So as I said, order matters. Let me just remove from pets this console. It's annoying me. It annoys me. Yeah. So now it is working. So you also can use switch. And actually people using it. So it's actual saying. Okay. We actually touched that, right? So you can pass params. And do we have a specific hook for that? Really? Let me check that. Sorry, the last time Sam was running this lesson, use param router. Yeah, this is a new saying, new shiny saying. So yeah, I believe that where is it? Blog post router use params. Yeah, so theoretically, what's going on? Where it comes from? Sorry, I need to find it. Yeah, hooks. This is a new shiny things. So you can basically use params. This is a hook. So rather than just passing what I did here, where is it? Where? This one, yeah? Router props. We can remove this one, I think, and still go to pet and have use params, so we can destructure. They destructure in slug, but we can destructure other things. Let me just console log what we can get from there. Const router props use params, and let me just console log router props. Yeah, we'll get a few errors, but we will define it. Oh yeah, sorry, too soon. Refresh. What? Pet name is not defined. It should be. Where's the pet name? Yeah, right. Okay, fair enough. Let me just comment out this as well. Save. Refresh. What? Why does it work? There's an object access match params. Yeah, okay. All right. I think that should be actually our pet name. So that should be like this. Save. If you go to Sebastian, yeah, we're getting Sebastian, right? If we put it back, refresh, we have all params as an object. And we have just one parameter, right? That is why it's like a simpler way to get params. So you don't need to pass match, params. You just use hook, use params. Does it make sense? Does it?
One more time, Zil.
Yep. So what we did before, right? We passed match prop because we had match from the other side, from here. We had this, like router props, we pass in inside, and now we took match, and inside match, which is our URL, we have params, and from params we took pet name because we had pet name here, right? Column pet name. But there is an easier way. You don't need to pass this. So that means that you don't need to pass the route props from here. You have your just a component as we had before, like that. Just route inside the component. And to get these match and these params from the URL, you can just use the hook, which you get from React Router. So you have just use params, and that will return all params. And in our case, this is just one param. This is an object. It's hard to see, but it is an object, and there we will have just our pet name. So we can have pet name here, this structure from the object. Or that can be like params. Okay, let's say URL or route params, URL params. And here you will have your URL params dot pet name because it is pet name, right? That should work as well. Fresh, it is working. Yeah? Is it clear or no? One more?
Yeah, just this bit about, so use params is okay, you import that from the React.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, let's you can try to walk through, go through and just to talk through basically and see. I'll help you if you're missing something.
we have to create a variable in order for us to use these params, and then const URL params, and then
Yes.
look through our array of pets in order to find the pet name. But you see the URL params.pet name.
Yeah.
How did our colon pet name then
This one.
become something? Yeah, how did that become something we then
Yeah.
access using the URL params?
So, yeah, good question. That means that here, because all of them, they all these components and hooks, they are coming from React Router. Use params, basically getting params from the URL. This is like a hook, built-in hook into React Router.
Okay, so to the localhost 3000 / whatever.
Yeah, so if I, so it doesn't, basically what we did before with match a few minutes ago, we got the whole URL and that had a separate like keys and like parameters with parameters, right? So we did it manually, but with hook, this hook basically take the match, get the props and return you that object with props. It's just simpler way. You don't need to build the whole same what we've done before.
Could we just flash quickly back to what we did before?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah, sure. So we were passing map. Second. So we were passing match, which is the whole thing, which is URL and params of the URL, because this is an object.
Okay, cool.
And that is why we were destructuring, because we're supposed to take params, and params inside params we will get pet name.
Okay. But instead of doing that, we had to do add. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of doing that, we can just have use params that will return params straight away without this match.props. And here you can just destructure your pet name from that object. This is what you need. And this is it.
Okay.
Also, one more. User state is also a hook, isn't it?
Yeah, is a hook.
And what's the difference between two? Between the use params and the state?
So hook, like in general, is just an extra functionality that you can bring to your application. It's just another function. You can create your own hooks. You can read about custom hooks. This is just a bunch of logic that you can have or you can create for your application.
Yeah, but I know how the user state works and what's its application. So what's the use params application, and how will it differ between the two?
Yeah, so use state is the native hook for React framework, right? This is default thing. Use params has been created by authors of React Router DOM. You can actually find another library of hooks. I don't know, some import from crazy hooks library. Yeah, and they can create a hook like get kittens or use get kittens. This is not typically how you call hooks. Use kittens. And you can have that kind of hook in your application. That name comes from the authors of that library. We have quite a few hooks predefined in React, which is use state, use effect, use memo, quite a few. But the rest is just customly created by different people.
Yeah, I know, I appreciate that, but what I was saying, what's the difference between the use state and use params? Because we destruct user state. So when we have initial value, and if the another element is changed, automatically one of the prompts change automatically use a state change, correct?
Yeah.
So thinking about the user state, what's the difference between this and the user state? That just to understand if that makes any sense.
So like in general, use state means that you set in state of your component, right? This is the different purpose of that hook. Completely different purpose, and that hook will return you an array of two things. First thing will be the value. Second thing will be a function where you can use this function to set the first thing. But inside this use state, you actually have some logic where you will have a function, you will have a value, and when you call this function, that function will just change the value here.
Yeah.
And this is just for state. So this is the way how you set in state. Use params will return you an object, completely different thing. This is based on the hook, specific hook. And that returns an object with params from your URL, from router params. It's just completely different things.
Yeah. User state, it's also either object or looks like a structure, has a structure object, isn't it?
No. Use state returns you an array. That is why you're destructuring as array.
I see.
So basically you can have like, if you go crazy, you can have something like state things, and you will have something to get the value from state. You will have state things square bracket 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to set the state, you will have set state 1 and execute it with some value.
Because I remember in the first, I don't know whether Daniel remembers or not, or the Dahi, when I asked Sam because user state is where we store the variables, correct?
Store the value, the values that we want to reuse after we will re-render component.
Yeah. So I asked him whether it is itself a variable. He said no. It looks like a more sort of object where you can store values, variables, even functions.
Yeah, because you can store in state. It shouldn't be just a string. It can be an object.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It can be anything. It's just this is basically the same as a variable, right? When you create a variable, like tests, it can be anything. It can be object, it can be string, it can be array, whatever. But user state, basically you storing somewhere else your data, so after you refresh your re-render component, you will not lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, don't be confused, because this is just two different hooks with completely different purposes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're getting params, and we can actually use it. So here we have an example where we have a cat's ID, name, and type, and you can actually now, because we have column ID, we have ID in our params, we can have column name, then we have name. So this is like a variable names that will be used as params. And now we can render all of that, right? Actually, this is a good point. This is another way of doing that. So look at this, ID, name, and type. Yeah, let's go crazy. Let's not pass pets at all. Let's actually just get those values from, let's say, name, age, and type, right? That means that should be a part of our URL. So here that should be name, what is it, age, and type, right? So that means that when we're constructing in our list, in our pets, it's not just pet name. It will be pet name / then what was the age? I think it was age, right? So your URL now will be a bit more complex. Pet.age and another one, pet.type, right? So now we can just use these things. We don't have, theoretically we can do just params, and just use params, object key, params, something like that. Pet, where do we have pet? Pet. Oh yeah, here. So potentially we want to see, it will be hard to test. Let's put it aside for a sec. But now everything, if we go into Sebastian, we have everything that we want to render, right? We are taking this data from the URL. Yeah? So now we just provide more data through the URL, which is not very nice, to be honest. Because it is ugly. Imagine that you have a lot of things. It's probably very ugly URL, so you don't want to do this. But this is another option how you can pass more data to your component without passing the array or any data from there, from the parent. I know, it's too many ways. And yeah, so here, this is a good actual example that you can use APIs, right? So you just land into the cat page, you pass in a name, and when you land on it, you do a call to your API to get by ID, and you will fetch the cat, specific cat by ID, and will render that. So this is one more way. If you depends on, again, on your architecture of your application, it can be achieved in different ways. So you can have your endpoint as you had before. So let me just put it back. Like this. So now if you render on this thing, let me just go to Jerry. Ooh, what have I missed? Yeah, right, this one. Jerry not found, really? Wait a second, what did I... Pet's name. What did I miss? Everything is not. Oh, did I? Oh, I'm passing pets. Sorry, give me a second. So you have pet's name. Pets and pet. Yeah, because I need to check pet name. Ooh, pet name is undefined. Right, I know what. That's not pet name. It should be pet name, not name. Yeah, beautiful. Now it is working. Great. Yeah. So that means that I can pass not actually pets. Imagine that this is what I said. So here we have like 3 options. We can pass all pets to our pet component, right? Just pet, all pets, to which is kind of overkill because you don't want to know, this component shouldn't know all pets. It actually wants to have just one pet. So you can have a Redux, which we'll talk on next week about that, to have a global state so you can get data from there. Or when you land on this, when you render this component, you can call your API and get the pet by pet name. You can build like an application, let's say you have use effect to render on initial call, and here you will have something like const data, right? Fetch. You'll have I don't know, something like I don't know, local host 3, what is it, 80, I don't know, 8080 for example, and pets / and pet name, yeah, and that dot JSON. So this is your this is your node server. Like JSON, it should be .zen, and you have response, and here you will have response.json, something like that, yeah. And now you can have a local state, so you can store it like set cat and set pet, and you'll put your data there. But that means that you need to have, so there is no such thing as find, but you need to have your use state, const pet should be set pet, and by default that should be an empty object, right? Something like that. That will be the logic. And now if pet has .name, I don't know, because you can handle if you didn't find, it will return an error, so you can build a logic around that. But I hope that you got the point, that this is another way. So every time you render that component, you will just do an API call, get the response, and render your cat here, your pet here. Yeah? No? Questions?
Is that when nothing is found, rather than showing 404, you can show something which looks better?
Yeah, exactly. You can, so basically you can build any logic around that and render different components, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, we have quite a few errors because I'm not handling all of them. But yeah, this is what this example about. So use history is another thing. Why it is a big thing? Because you can actually navigate back to the previous state. So imagine that you are on the cat. Let me just put everything back so into the working state. Yeah, like that. Let me check. Yeah, it is working. So now when we click this page, it's actually remembering that. But imagine, so now we have 404, right? So if you do this, we have 404. But we can actually redirect our user to another page if you want. So what we can do, we can just, so history, we have a hook again, use history. which is actually use history from window, and you can redirect to another thing, right? So what we can do, we can just again import another hook, and if we not find it, the specific cat, we can redirect to another page. So what we can do here in our pet, we can have use history, another hook, and that will be const history, right? And then if pet not found, we just want to do history.push and go to our pets. So you don't want, we will not see the error here, we will just go to pets. Yep. So let's try. What's going on? Cannot convert undefined to null. What's going on? Why are we still rendering this component? Okay, yeah, it might be just failed. Okay, so we are here on pets. If you go to Sebastian, it is working as we expect. But if you go to great, we actually want to return after that. Return, save, refresh. Beautiful. Nothing was returned from render. Awesome. Really great. Why it doesn't work? I'm pretty sure that should work as use history. Yep. Looks about right. Why it doesn't work? Return null. Let me try. Maybe just complaining about the logic. Yeah. So you still need to follow the React requirements, because every single component is supposed to return something, and that something in our case can be null. So the structure of the React component still should be kept. So you're redirecting and returning null for this component. Right, so now if you go to Sebastian, it's working. Jerry, great. If you go to anything else, it just go back, right? So if you go to the home page, go pets, and then anything else, it just go to pets page. So you can actually redirect to the custom page. Yep, you don't need to keep your 404 here. You just use the logic with push. You don't need to write your 404 message here or add your components, your 404 component to every single component where you handling such things. You just do this. And in your case, it can be just 404, like 404. Yeah? Does it make sense? Does it? Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, I think this is it for today. So you have just 2 code editor and 3 questions, please. Any questions? 2 questions, at least 1 question? No? Okay, so yeah, next week is for Redux. So we'll have 2 lessons with Redux. one is just Redux, because Redux is the library for many. It can be used with different frameworks, and the second lesson will be about Redux and React. So yes, yeah. Question? Woohoo! What kind of question you want to ask? Come on, don't be shy.
No, I was saying maybe later questions like.
Okay.
Like
Disappointment. Okay, yeah, so I think this is it for today. Hope you enjoyed and you'll implement and add routings for your applications and you can play with it. Because again, the remaining part for React journey is Redux. And we also have we have a few more things like in general, but this is everything you need to start working with proper and build proper applications on Redux. On React.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. And